Please pretend you love me, the poor girl whispered to the CEO as her ex watched. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The ballroom of the Silver Lake Grand Hotel glittered like it was built to impress people who lived their entire lives chasing validation. Crystal chandeliers dripped light over polished marble floors, and the soft hum of well-dressed guests blended with the clinking of champagne glasses. But in the middle of all that beauty stood a girl who clearly did not belong to this world. Her name was Nora Hayes, 24, wearing the only dress she owned for special occasions, a faded navy gown she had bought at a thrift store for $8. The zipper was stubborn, the hem uneven, and she had spent half an hour ironing out the wrinkles with a borrowed iron at the diner where she worked. She had come here for one reason, a single reason that already felt like a mistake. Her ex Caleb stood across the ballroom, with his new girlfriend, both laughing as if the world existed purely to entertain them. When his eyes flicked toward Nora, amusement bloomed on his face, cruel and unapologetic. Nora swallowed hard. She should turn around. She should leave. But the words he had thrown at her last month still burned like fresh cuts. You are nobody, Nora. You will always be nobody. I need someone who can help my future, not drag it down. So she came. She came to prove she was not nobody, even if she had nothing tangible to show. Her fingers trembled as she held a nearly empty glass of punch. The cheap plastic heel of her shoe wobbled each time she shifted her weight. And Caleb saw it. He was already smirking, already whispering something to his girlfriend, who glanced over with a pitying look. Nora's chest tightened. She needed something. Anything. Someone who could make her look like she had moved on, like she was no longer the girl who cried on a bus ride home because she could not afford the taxi after Caleb left her at a restaurant with the bill. She looked around the room, desperate. That was when she saw him. A man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit stood near the balcony doors, tall and quiet, as if he were observing the world instead of participating in it. His posture was effortless, almost regal. He did not mingle, did not laugh, did not even pretend to care what the others thought. He looked completely out of place in a way that made him impossible to look away from. Nora's heart hammered in her chest, but she forced her shaking legs to move. Every step felt like a mistake, yet some stubborn part of her refused to turn back. She walked until she stood just 2 feet away from him. The air around him felt different, steady, grounded, expensive. He turned slightly, revealing deep-set eyes, sharp features, and a calm expression that somehow made her breath catch. Nora's voice trembled. Sir, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you do not know me, and this is insane, but please pretend you love me. For a moment, he simply stared. Not in confusion. Not in disgust. But with a stillness that felt almost unsettling. Behind her, Caleb laughed loudly. Nora's lungs squeezed. She whispered again, barely able to speak. Just for tonight, please. The man glanced past her shoulder, noticed Caleb, and something cold flickered in his eyes. Then he looked back at Nora, really looked at her, and the tightness in his jaw softened. Slowly, he extended his hand toward her. What is your name? He asked. Nora, she breathed. He nodded once. Then come here, Nora. And before she could understand what was happening, his arm slipped around her waist, firm, steady, protective, pulling her gently to his side. A ripple moved through the room. Caleb froze. Nora's heart nearly stopped. The man leaned down, his voice a low whisper meant only for her. My name is Adrian Cole. She blinked. The name meant nothing to her. But one thing was certain. He said it like a man accustomed to being obeyed. A man who did not do anything without purpose. And suddenly the entire ballroom was watching them. Adrian Cole did not loosen his hand from Nora's waist. If anything, his touch grew steadier, as if he intended to erase every trace of humiliation Caleb had tried to paint across her night. Nora could hardly breathe. She had asked a stranger to pretend he loved her, and instead of walking away, he was staying. Standing beside her like he had every right to protect her. Caleb finally approached his expensive cologne, cutting through the air before he even spoke. Well, Caleb said, with a mocking smile. Nora Hayes brought a date. I did not expect that. His eyes flicked to Adrian, assessing, searching for weakness. And Adrian did not blink. Someone who does not appreciate men who mistreat good women. Caleb's smile faltered. His girlfriend shifted uneasily beside him. Nora's stomach twisted. No one had ever spoken on her behalf like that. Not once. Caleb cleared his throat, trying to laugh it off. Good women? You must not know her that well. Adrian's voice turned cool. I know enough. A hush fell around them. A few guests pretended not to stare. The tension tasted metallic, like a storm waiting to break. Nora tugged lightly at Adrian's sleeve, silently begging him not to escalate things. He glanced down at her with a calm that felt impossibly reassuring, like she was safe beside him even though none of this made sense. Caleb scoffed and walked away, his wounded pride trailing behind him like a torn veil. Relief rushed through Nora's chest, but so did panic. She stepped back from Adrian, breath unsteady. I am sorry, she whispered. I should not have dragged you into that. You have no idea what a mess I just made for you. Adrian studied her face, unreadable. What exactly did you expect would happen when you asked me to pretend I love you? Her cheeks went hot. She looked down at her shoes, embarrassed by the peeling edges and the slight wobble in the left heel. I did not expect anything, she murmured. I could not let him humiliate me again. I know how that sounds. It sounds honest, Adrian replied. Nora blinked up at him. Honest? No one used that word about her. People usually said she was naive, too trusting, too hopeful for her own good. Before she could respond, a waiter in a white jacket approached. Mr. Cole, the host, asked if he would like to move to the terrace for a quieter space. Nora froze. Mr. Cole, her eyes widened. Are you someone important here? She asked softly. Adrian held her gaze. Important is not the word I would use. But the waiter looked terrified of even breathing wrong near him. They followed the waiter across the ballroom, passing curious eyes. Nora wanted to melt into the floor. Every chandelier, every polished railing, every silk gown reminded her she had no business being here. When they reached the terrace, the cold night air wrapped around them. The city stretched below like a constellation of gold. Nora stepped out first, hugging her arms for warmth. You really can go back inside, she said quietly. I will be fine. Adrian stepped beside her. I did not come out here for the view. Nora's breath hitched. She turned to him, unable to understand this man who moved with quiet confidence, and looked at her like she was not invisible. Why did you help me? She asked. Because you asked, Adrian said simply, and because some people deserve to be protected even when they do not believe it themselves. Her throat tightened. Before she could speak, a vibration buzzed against Adrian's suit pocket. He checked his phone, and for the first time Nora saw a flicker of irritation cross his expression. You have a business call? She asked. No, he replied. A board member is panicking about something. They can wait. A board member. Panic. Wait. Her mind scrambled to connect the dots. He turned back to her. Nora Hayes, I do not know what Caleb took from you, but he will not take anything else tonight. She swallowed. Thank you. Adrian's eyes softened just a fraction. You are welcome. The terrace light glowed warm across his features, sharpening the edges of his jaw and the steady focus in his eyes. He looked like a man used to carrying worlds on his shoulders. A man who could crush someone with a single sentence, yet had chosen instead to shield a girl with second-hand shoes. Nora stepped back, unsure of what to do with the sudden quiet between them. Adrian broke it first. If you want him to believe we are together, he said calmly, then we need to make this look real. Nora froze. Real. Real enough to fool an ex. Real enough to risk everything. Her heartbeat stumbled. What does that mean? Adrian extended his hand. It means he said you walk back in there with me. Nora stared at the hand that could change everything. Nora stared at Adrian Cole's hand as if it were a door she was not sure she was allowed to open. The ballroom waited behind them, glowing through the terrace doors like a stage she was not prepared to step onto again. Adrian did not move his hand closer or farther. He simply held it there, steady, patient, a gesture that felt strangely respectful. Nora, he said quietly, you choose. I do not drag anyone anywhere. Her pulse fluttered. No one had ever given her a choice with that much weight before. Slowly, she placed her trembling hand into his. His fingers closed around hers with a confidence that grounded her instantly. Good, he murmured. Then we walk in together. He led her back through the terrace doors. The ballroom lights washed over them warm and blinding. Conversations dipped. Heads turned. Even the music seemed to hesitate. Nora wanted to shrink, to disappear behind him, but Adrian kept her close to his side, guiding her through the crowd with a quiet authority that made every person step out of their path. Caleb's expression twisted when he saw them re-enter. He had expected Nora to crumble. Instead, she looked protected. Adrian leaned down slightly. "He is watching," he said. "Stay with me." They stopped near the center of the ballroom and Adrian released her hand, only to rest his palm lightly against the small of her back. The touch was gentle, deliberate grounding. A waiter approached with a tray of champagne flutes and Adrian took one. Then he turned and offered it to Nora. Not handed. Offered. Like she was a guest of honor. Her breath caught. I should not. This is too expensive. I really should not even be. You belong here," Adrian said calmly. "Take it." For a moment her hand shook so much she was afraid the glass might slip. But she accepted it. And the room seemed to shift. People who had ignored her earlier now glanced twice. A woman in a red gown whispered to her friend, both eyes widening. A man near the stage nudged his partner. No one could place her, but everyone could see that Adrian Cole had chosen to stand with her. Caleb's jaw tightened. Adrian glanced at Nora again, studying her carefully. "Are you all right?" "I am trying to be," she said honestly. "You are doing better than trying," he replied. Her throat tightened at the quiet praise. Before she could respond, a man in a navy suit approached them with a polite smile. "Mr. Cole, the board members have been asking if you will make an appearance before the auction begins." Nora blinked. Board members. Auction. This was not a casual event. This was a high-profile charity gala, and Adrian Cole was someone the board begged to impress. Adrian gave the man a curt nod. In a moment, the man hesitated. "Of course. Take your time." As he left, Nora whispered, "Adrian, are you sure you are not missing something important because of me?" He looked at her with an expression that softened the edges of his features. "Nora Hayes, if I wanted to be in that room right now, I would be there." Her breath caught again. He continued, "You asked me to pretend. That is what I am doing." But his voice carried something deeper, something less pretend. Nora looked down her fingers, brushing the rim of her champagne flute. "I did not think you would actually help me. I thought you would ignore me or laugh." "I do not laugh at people who are hurting," he said. "And I do not turn away from someone who asks for help with that kind of desperation." She exhaled shakily. "I did not want to need help. I just wanted to feel like I was worth something. At least, once." Adrian's eyes studied her, really studied her, as if weighing truths she had never spoken aloud until tonight. "You are worth more than you think," he said quietly. Her chest tightened. She tried to blink away the sudden sting in her eyes. Before she could speak, Caleb returned with a forced smile, his girlfriend clinging to his arm. "Well," Caleb said, voice dripping with bitterness, "you two seem close. Very close." Adrian turned, his posture straightening just enough to make Caleb falter half a step. "We are," Adrian replied evenly. Caleb scoffed. "Right. So how long have you known each other?" Nora froze. Her mind scrambled for something believable. But Adrian answered without hesitation. "Long enough," he said. Caleb lifted an eyebrow. "Really, because she never mentioned someone like you." Adrian's tone sharpened. "Sometimes people keep good things private." Nora nearly stopped breathing. Caleb opened his mouth again, ready to pry deeper, ready to humiliate her all over again, but Adrian stepped subtly closer to Nora, his hand resting on her back again. "She is with me," Adrian said softly, but there was steel in his voice. "That is all you need to know." Caleb's confidence cracked. His girlfriend tugged his arm, urging him away. This time, Caleb listened. When he disappeared into the crowd, Nora felt her shoulders sag with relief. Adrian's hand remained steady on her back, grounding her. She looked up at him. "You did not have to do any of that." "I know," Adrian said, "but I chose to." And that choice echoed louder than the music around them. For a long moment, Nora stood in the center of the ballroom with Adrian Cole's steady hand, guiding her, grounding her, keeping her from collapsing beneath the weight of everything that had just happened. Caleb had been silenced. The room had shifted. And somehow Adrian had become the shield she never expected. But the night was not finished with either of them. A soft chime echoed from somewhere near the stage. The host stepped forward with a microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, our charity auction begins in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. A low ripple moved across the ballroom as guests migrated toward their assigned tables. Adrian looked down at Nora. Come with me. Her breath caught. To your table, yes, he replied. Unless you prefer standing alone in a room full of people who want to know why I am with you. Her cheeks warmed. Right. I guess I do not have much of a choice. You have every choice, Adrian said. But you should not walk through this crowd without someone beside you. She swallowed and nodded. He guided her toward a table near the front one, surrounded by executives in tailored suits, donors in designer gowns, and people whose lives looked impossibly distant from the world Nora knew. The name cards were embossed in gold. The centerpiece alone probably cost more than Nora's monthly rent. As they approached, a woman in a dark green silk dress glanced up. Mr. Cole, she said warmly, we were wondering when you would join us. Then her gaze drifted to Nora. Confusion flickered across her face, then curiosity, then a polite but clearly forced smile. And this is my date, Adrian said simply. Nora almost choked on the air. The entire table froze for half a second. Then murmurs began, quiet but unmistakable. Nora sat beside Adrian, feeling intensely aware of her thrift store dress and uneven hem. She kept her hands folded on her lap, trying not to fidget. Adrian's posture remained relaxed, unaffected, as if none of the whispers mattered. A man across the table leaned forward. Mr. Cole, I heard the Westline acquisition is closing next week. Will you attend the signing ceremony? Adrian took a sip of water before answering. Possibly. The man pressed your presence would accelerate investor confidence. Adrian's gaze sharpened. If the deal relies on my physical presence to survive, then the board should question the value of the acquisition itself. Silence blanketed the table. Nora blinked. She was learning quickly that Adrian Cole did not soften his words for anyone. As the conversation shifted, she leaned slightly toward him. Are you always that direct? Always, Adrian replied without looking at her. People expect clarity from me. And I give it to them, even when it scares them, especially when it scares them. Her lips almost curved into a smile. But then reality rushed back. She leaned closer, whispering, Adrian, we need to talk. About this. About pretending. He finally turned toward her. We will. Before they could speak further, the lights dimmed slightly and the host returned to the microphone. Before the auction begins, we would like to thank our top donors, including Mr. Adrian Cole, whose contributions remain the backbone of this event. Polite applause followed. Nora's heart stilled. Top donor. Board members. He was not just important. He was the important person. She whispered, Adrian, I should not be at your table. His voice remained calm. You are here because I sat you here? But people are staring. Let them. But they will think things. They already do, he replied. And that is the point. Her pulse stumbled. What point? Adrian set down his glass. If we are pretending to be together, we cannot do it halfway. Caleb does not believe half measures. Neither do people in this room. Nora's breath tightened. So what do? We establish the terms, Adrian said. Like any agreement. Agreement. The word settled between them like a weight. Nora whispered, are you saying you want to make this a real arrangement, not real love? I mean, just the act? Yes. If you are willing. Her voice trembled. And what exactly would that require? He leaned in, slightly lowering his voice so only she could hear. 5 public events. My presence at each will end the rumors Caleb started and stop others from trying to undermine you. In return, you attend with me, stand with me, and help prevent certain board members from stirring doubt during a crucial transition period. So this helps both of us, she whispered. It does. She hesitated. And the boundaries, we agree to them now, Adrian said. Her heart pounded. Okay, say them. Adrian's voice stayed steady. 1. No physical affection unless required in public. Nora nodded slowly. 2. We do not interfere in each other's private lives. She swallowed. All right. 3. We are honest about concerns, but not about emotions. Nora blinked. Meaning we do not confuse this for anything real, Adrian said, his tone perfectly even. We stay clear. We stay focused. No assumptions. No attachment. For a moment, Nora felt something sting behind her ribs. Right, she whispered. No attachment. Adrian studied her expression a little too long, a little too intently before he spoke again. And for, he added softly, we walk into every event together. No hesitation, no fear. Her breath caught. I do not know if I can promise no fear. Adrian's gaze softened for the first time that night. Then promise you will take the step, he said. I will handle the rest. Nora inhaled deeply, then nodded. I agree. Adrian gave a single decisive nod. Then, so do I. A quiet agreement. A silent contract. A beginning they were both pretending did not feel like more. The host announced the first auction item, but Nora barely heard it. All she could feel was the moment her life shifted subtly, quietly, dangerously into something she could not take back. The charity auction moved forward with polished smiles and carefully rehearsed enthusiasm, but Nora could barely hear any of it. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears like a misplaced drum, and every time she shifted in her chair, her thrift store gown whispered reminders that she did not belong in this glittering world. Yet Adrian Cole sat beside her with the same poised confidence he carried everywhere, as if her presence at his table was the most natural thing in the world. When the sixth auction item was introduced, a luxury weekend at a private vineyard, Adrian leaned toward her. This is where the room gets loud, he murmured. Alcohol, pride, and competition are a dangerous mix. Nora nearly laughed, almost forgetting the tight knot in her stomach. How do you always sound so calm? I am not calm, Adrian said quietly. I am controlled. Before she could ask what the difference was, the host stepped forward again. Next, he announced, we have a special segment. Guests are welcome to share personal dedications or words of gratitude to highlight tonight's cause. Nora stiffened. Public speaking was her worst nightmare. She never raised her hand in class. She never spoke at birthdays. She never even managed to introduce herself without her voice shaking. She exhaled in relief when another guest approached the microphone instead. A woman in a red gown delivered a graceful speech about generosity and community. Then a man stood. Then another. The ballroom applauded each time. Nora tried to relax, but calm shattered when the host said we would now like to invite Adrian Cole, our top donor, to share a few words. Nora felt the world tilt. Adrian stood smoothly, fastening the button of his suit jacket. But just before he moved toward the stage, he looked down at her and spoke quietly. Stay here, but do not drop your gaze. Confidence is not about status. It is about posture. She nodded even though her stomach twisted. When Adrian reached the stage, the audience quieted instantly, almost reverently. He commanded stillness the way other men commanded rooms. Thank you, he began, voice steady. Tonight is not about wealth. It is about responsibility. His words carried a firm, unforced gravity. Every sentence felt deliberate, every pause intentional. People barely blinked. But Nora's relief did not last. Because as Adrian spoke, Caleb returned to the table, sliding into the empty seat beside her with a smug look that made her skin crawl. You look uncomfortable, Caleb whispered. Not surprising. You always hated crowds. Nora gripped her hands beneath the table. Leave me alone. Caleb chuckled softly. I am just being honest. You think this world fits you? That gown is probably older than some of the interns at Adrian's company? Her pulse stumbled. Do not react, she told herself. Adrian said to stay steady. Do not fold. But Caleb leaned closer. Look around, Nora. These people know you do not belong here. He knows it too. Her breath wavered. Shame rose like heat in her throat until she felt a shadow fall across the table. Adrian had returned, and one look at Nora's face told him everything. His voice stayed low, calm, but edged in steel. You are sitting in my seat. Caleb blinked up at him. I was just talking to Nora. That is precisely the problem, Adrian replied. Caleb tried to stand taller even while sitting. You do not own her. No, Adrian said, but I am with her. Nora's heart collapsed into silence. The surrounding tables turned their heads, subtle but unmistakable. Eyes widened. Conversations hushed. This was a test. The first public test of their agreement, and it was happening too fast. Caleb scoffed. So she really is your date, Adrian did not flinch. Yes. Caleb opened his mouth again, but Adrian shifted just enough that the man instinctively stepped back, bowing to the quiet authority of someone far above his weight. Caleb muttered something under his breath and retreated, his pride shrinking behind him. Adrian sat beside Nora again. She whispered, "I am sorry. I should have handled that better." "You handled it exactly as someone who was hurt," what Adrian said. "And that is what made him underestimate you." She looked at him, confused. "Why is that good?" Adrian's gaze softened for a split second. "Because underestimation always shifts the power." Nora exhaled shakily. He leaned a little closer. "And you did not break. That is what matters." Heat pressed behind her ribs. "Thank you." "You are welcome," he murmured. Around them, the ballroom moved on. But the test was over, and Nora had stayed standing. The auction ended with applause that felt distant to Nora, like sound trapped underwater. Her thoughts spun in circles, looping around everything that had just happened. Adrian had defended her again, publicly, firmly, without hesitation, and she had held her ground. Barely, but she had. The ballroom lights shifted brighter as servers began clearing tables and guests drifted toward the lobby for coffee and small desserts. Adrian remained seated for a moment, watching the room with a thoughtful expression. Nora turned toward him. "You did not have to stand up for me like that." Adrian looked at her, calm but unwavering. "I did not stand up for you. I stood beside you. There is a difference." Her breath caught. "Either way, I appreciate it." He nodded once, then rose from his chair. "Come. It is too crowded here." He offered his hand. Not as dramatic as before, not for show. A quieter gesture. A private one. Nora hesitated, but she took it. Adrian led her toward a side hallway where the noise from the ballroom faded into a softer hum. Decorative sconces glowed along the walls, casting a warm, almost intimate light. For the first time since the night began, Nora felt like she could breathe. They stopped near a tall window overlooking the hotel's front fountain. Outside, a misty drizzle blurred the city lights. Adrian released her hand. "Are you all right?" "I think so," Nora whispered. "I know I was supposed to keep my composure. But when Caleb said those things, you did nothing wrong," Adrian said. "Pain does not disappear because we tell ourselves to feel strong." She looked down, embarrassed by the trembling she could not hide. I did not want to disappoint you." His voice softened in a way that startled her. "Nora, this arrangement does not erase your humanity. You are allowed to feel whatever you feel." Her heart tightened painfully. This was the part of the contract that worried her, the part she could not put on paper. The part that slipped between them in quiet moments like this, when he looked at her too long, when his voice lowered, when the boundaries they had set began to feel fragile. Nora cleared her throat gently. "Earlier, when you said I belonged at your table, did you mean it, or was it just part of the act?" Adrian did not answer right away. His eyes lowered to her hands, the same hands she kept clenching and unclenching, unsure where to place them. Then he said, "I meant every word." A small sound escaped her, a breath she did not realize she had been holding. But Adrian added carefully, "That does not mean we ignore the rules we set." Reality rushed back, cool and sharp. "Right," Nora whispered. "No attachment. No emotions." Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Those boundaries protect both of us." "I understand," Nora said softly, even though some part of her stung at the reminder. He studied her face again, as if weighing whether to say more. For a moment his expression softened, too soft, too revealing, but then he straightened, clearing his throat. "There is something else we need to address," he said. Nora folded her hands nervously. "What is it?" "Our first public event together is tomorrow evening." Her stomach flipped. "Tomorrow already?" "Yes. The annual Cole Industries Scholarship Dinner. It will be crowded, formal, and very public. You will be introduced as my date." Nora felt lightheaded. "Adrian, I cannot do that. I mean, tonight was barely survivable, and tonight," Adrian interrupted gently, "you walked back into the ballroom when you wanted to run. You stood up to someone who tried to tear you apart. You steadied yourself when everyone watched you. You survived more than you realize." Nora blinked rapidly, the warmth in his voice pulling her back from panic. "I will help you prepare," Adrian continued. "You will not walk into that room alone." Her voice barely surfaced. "But what if I embarrass you? What if I say the wrong thing, or do the wrong thing?" "Or you will not embarrass me," Adrian said firmly. And if anyone tries to belittle you again, they will answer to me." Her breath wavered. Why do you keep protecting me like this?" Adrian paused the question, drawing attention across his features he did not seem prepared for. Then he answered quietly, "Because someone should have protected you a long time ago." Silence fell between them, heavy, tender, dangerous. Nora swallowed hard. "Adrian, remember the rule." "I remember," he said. But the way he looked at her did not feel like a man remembering rules. It felt like a man trying very hard not to break them. Nora barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adrian's face in the dim hallway, light, the quiet softness in his voice when he told her someone should have protected her. It was too much and not enough all at once. By morning, her nerves were tangled tight. The scholarship dinner was only hours away, and she had nothing appropriate to wear. Her thrift store gown from the gala would not survive a second event, and she could not show up looking like an afterthought standing beside a man like Adrian Cole. She paced the small living room of her studio apartment, chewing at her thumbnail. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. "I cannot do this. I cannot pretend to be someone I am not." Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. Nora hesitated, then answered. "Hello, calm female voice responded, "Good morning. This is Claire from Cole Industries. Mr. Cole asked me to arrange a delivery for you." Nora froze. "A delivery, yes, Miss Hayes. It should arrive at your door in the next 5 minutes." Nora stared at the phone, confusion twisting inside her. I did not order anything." "Of course," Claire said politely. Mr. Cole did. The call ended before Nora could protest. A knock came moments later. When Nora opened the door, 2 attendants stood beside a black garment bag, 2 shoeboxes, and a small package wrapped in silver paper. Everything looked impossibly elegant, the kind of luxury she only saw in magazines while waiting tables at the diner. She whispered, "There must be a mistake." One attendant smiled. "No mistake, Miss Hayes. Mr. Cole said this was essential." Essential. Not optional. Not charity. Essential. After they left, Nora carried everything inside with trembling hands. She placed the garment bag on her bed and carefully unzipped it. A navy dress shimmered beneath the plastic covering, simple, elegant, perfectly cut. It was the kind of dress that whispered confidence instead of shouting wealth. The exact shade of blue that made her eyes look brighter than she had ever seen. She pressed a hand to her chest. This was not just preparation. This was investment. And investment was dangerous. She picked up the silver-wrapped box and opened it. Inside lay a delicate bracelet, minimalist, refined, nothing extravagant. Attached was a small card in clean handwriting. "Nora, wear this tonight. You will do well." Adrian, her breath caught, but beneath the fluttering warmth came a sudden fear, sharp, disorienting. This was exactly the kind of moment the rules were meant to prevent. Attachment. Meaning. The quiet beginnings of something real. She whispered, "Adrian, what are you doing to me?" But she already knew the truth. It was not what he was doing. It was what she was beginning to feel. The scholarship dinner took place at the Hallcrest Cultural Center, a grand stone building with tall arched windows and glowing lanterns that lit the entrance like a movie premiere. By the time Nora stepped out of the taxi, she could already feel dozens of elegant guests moving past her, wrapped in confidence she wished she owned. She tugged gently at the navy dress Adrian had sent. It fit her perfectly, too perfectly, as if it had been chosen by someone who paid more attention to her than she realized. The bracelet glimmered softly around her wrist, catching the streetlight. Nora whispered to herself, "You can do this." "You promised him?" But as she walked up the steps, her legs trembled. Inside, the venue sparkled with warm lights and soft music. Servers carried trays of champagne, donors mingled around displays of student projects, and the atmosphere vibrated with easy wealth. Nora felt every inch of her old life tugging her backward. Then she saw him. Adrian Cole stood near the center of the room, wearing a black suit that looked sharper than anything she had seen him in before. His posture was calm, composed, effortlessly commanding, and he was scanning the room, searching for her. The moment his eyes found her, the tension in his shoulders released. He crossed the room with unhurried steps, but his gaze never left her. When he reached her, he stopped just close enough that only she could hear his voice. "Nora," he said quietly, "you look—" He paused, searching for a word he did not usually allow himself to use. "Stunning." Heat bloomed across her cheeks. "Thank you. And thank you For the dress. You did not have to send anything. I did, Adrian replied. You needed to feel prepared. Confidence is a form of armor. She swallowed. Then I hope I can wear it as well as you think. You already are. Before she could respond, a man in a dark suit approached them with a firm handshake. Mr. Cole, the board is waiting to greet your guest. Nora stiffened at the word guest. Adrian placed a guiding hand at the small of her back, not possessive, not performative, but steady. She is with me, he said. There is nothing for her to worry about. The man nodded and gestured toward a cluster of executives. Nora's heart thudded painfully as Adrian led her forward. Each step felt like walking deeper into a world that was not hers, but he stayed beside her, matching her pace. When they approached the board members, conversations paused. A woman with pearl earrings studied Nora with open curiosity. A man cleared his throat, forcing a polite smile. Adrian introduced her with unwavering confidence. Everyone, this is Nora Hayes. The room shifted. Not with ridicule, not with mockery, but with recognition because Adrian Cole had chosen to stand with her. A board member said, Miss Hayes, we are delighted you could join us tonight. Nora forced a breath, her voice barely steady. Thank you. I am honored to be here. Adrian glanced at her, a small flicker of approval in his eyes. But the moment she thought she might survive the night, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Well, woman sneered softly, I see the rumors were true. Nora froze. The woman stepped forward, arms crossed, lips curved in a cruel smile. I am Olivia Grant, she said. Adrian's former fiancée. Nora's heart plummeted. Adrian's hand on her back went still. Olivia's gaze sharpened. So this is the girl he brought to replace me. Nora's chest tightened as the room held its breath. The contract, the boundaries, the fragile rules, everything suddenly wavered. And in that fragile moment, Nora realized something terrifying pretending was about to get much harder, because feelings were no longer staying in the shadows. For a long moment, Nora could not move. The elegant hum of the scholarship dinner faded beneath the sharp edges of Olivia Grant's voice. Adrian's former fiancée. The woman who belonged in his world. The woman who stood exactly where Nora stood now. Olivia's eyes swept over her, slow and cutting. This is who you brought tonight, Adrian. I suppose desperation makes men reckless. Nora felt the words hit like glass. She took a small step back, but Adrian's hand steadied her before she could retreat. Olivia, he said calmly, this is inappropriate. Inappropriate, Olivia scoffed. What is inappropriate is parading someone like her around to provoke me. Is she your employee, your charity project? Nora's throat tightened painfully. She tried to speak, but no words formed. Adrian's voice lowered. Stop. But Olivia's smile sharpened. Does she even know this is a pattern for you, picking someone fragile to fix your image that broke something inside Nora? She stepped away from Adrian's hand. Is that true? She whispered. Adrian turned to her instantly. Nora, no. That is not. Do not lie, Olivia said. He did the same after we ended. Found someone innocent. Someone harmless. Someone who would not question him. Nora felt the room tilt. The dress, the bracelet, the quiet gestures that felt too gentle to be fake. What if they were not special? What if they were just strategy, she whispered. Adrian I just part of a pattern. He swallowed, the first crack in his composure appearing. Nora, listen to me. I helped you because you asked. I stood by you because I chose to. Not because I needed to replace anyone. But that is the problem, Nora said quietly. I do not know what any of this truly is. I do not know where the act ends and where the truth begins. Adrian stepped closer, voice firm with urgency. The act ended the moment I defended you in the ballroom. Everything after that was real. Her breath caught. The rules said no feelings. I know, Adrian said, and I broke them. The room went silent. Olivia crossed her arms, annoyed, but suddenly irrelevant. Nora felt her heart twist, hope, fear, everything tangled together. Adrian, you cannot say that if you do not mean it. He met her gaze without wavering. Nora Hayes, I am done pretending. I want you not because you fit into my world, but because you make me want to be a better man in it. Tears stung her eyes. For the first time, she felt the truth, not wrapped in wealth, not hidden beneath rules, just a raw, fragile truth. But there was one more choice she had to make. She took a deep breath. If we do this, It cannot be a contract anymore. It has to be real. Adrian nodded slowly. Then let it be real. He extended his hand not for show, not for a crowd, but for her alone. Nora placed her hand in his steady this time. The room seemed to exhale with her. Olivia turned sharply and walked away, defeated by a truth she could not rewrite. Adrian squeezed Nora's hand gently. "Are you ready to leave?" She nodded. "Yes." "With you." They walked out of the scholarship dinner together, not as an act, not as a distraction, but as two people choosing each other without contracts, without conditions, without fear. The act was over. The real story had finally begun. Thank you for watching this series. If you want more dramatic stories like this one, comment more stories below.